Welcome to the Life, Love, Everything podcast. I am your host, Tasmin Bota. Today's episode is one that is particularly important to me because my preemie has gone through years of physical therapy. And when we received our cerebral palsy diagnosis, I was on a mission to gather as much information as I could to provide him with the right support that he needed in order to thrive. And that is how I came across Dr. Sonakshi's Instagram account. The therapy she was showing was unlike anything I had seen before, but the results were absolutely mind-blowing. And so I reached out to her and she explained to me about this new kind of intensive therapy that was changing young children's lives. So sit back and enjoy this episode on dynamic movement intervention with Dr. Sonakshi Narayan, who is a pediatric physical therapist and founder of Sunny Days Pediatric Therapy, LLC, based in Washington, D.C., United States of America. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Sonakshi.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
So we are going to jump straight into it because we've got a lot that we want to unpack. So you are a pediatric physical therapist. What does a pediatric physical therapist actually do?
So pediatric physical therapists have a pretty wide range in which we can kind of work with the pediatric population. We see anywhere between 0 years old all the way up to 21 years old. And there's lots of different settings that you can work with. But the majority of what we do is we're working on building strength. We're working on flexibility of the muscles. We're working on motor control, all to kind of make sure that the kiddo can achieve something that maybe they weren't able to do before. So in my practice, I work just exclusively with kiddos aged 0 to 3 years old. Those we're working on hitting milestones such as sitting independently, crawling, standing, and walking.
Oh, wow, that's so awesome. So you introduced me to this new kind of physical therapy called dynamic movement intervention. What is DMI?
Yes, so DMI has come out recently over the last few years. It is a newer form of therapy that is used in kiddos that have gross motor impairments. And this can kind of be due to potentially some birth injuries. It can be due to rare genetic conditions, anything in which the kiddo is experiencing some delays in their motor development. Now, DMI looks very, very different than traditional. A lot of that is because we are kind of playing around with positions in which we're putting the child in positions where they have to kind of work their muscles differently against gravity. So you may see some videos online in which kiddos are being floated in the air, kiddos are being kind of put in these positions where therapists are holding them up in the air, and it's actually having them engage their muscles and turn on their muscle tone up against gravity. And we have seen just such amazing results and amazing progress. So I can't speak highly enough about DMI.
Oh, man. I know that when I first came across it, my mind was absolutely blown by, the before and after results. But it is quite an effective form of therapy. So physically, mentally, and I'm sure even emotionally, how would parents adequately prepare themselves for attending DMI sessions and even prepare their children for a DMI session?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Because DMI looks a lot different than traditional therapy. The sessions themselves are much more intensive, and they require a lot more energy and effort from both the child, the therapist, and the families. I usually recommend that families kind of, if they have the ability to look up some videos and gain some access to what DMI looks like prior to coming in so that they have an idea of how to best prepare themselves. And I do usually recommend bringing in a comfort item. So whether that's a kiddo has a favorite stuffed animal or a favorite toy from home, bringing in snacks and things that help them kind of get through the sessions. And then in my practice personally, I kind of offer the option for kiddos to break up the hour and a half of daily PT into 2 sessions so that way they can get a little break in the middle. And every program is a little different in that sense, but there is a lot of kind of mental preparation that families have to take prior to coming in. And a lot of families kind of make sure to do their own research so that they have an idea of what it looks like.
Okay. So typically then what would you expect during a DMI session?
Yeah, so typically what we do is DMI is a huge part of what the intensive would look like. So an intensive, I'm seeing the kiddo every single day across anywhere between 1 to 3 weeks, and that is for two 45-minute sessions daily. Now, every program is different, but it's kind of a similar model in the sense that we're seeing the child every day across a certain period of time. So this really allows the gains to kind of build on each other, and you start to see the child kind of develop a momentum in which they're building on the skills that they learned the previous day. Um, and so with an intensive, DMI is a big part of the session. So we're going to be doing exercises that are aerial based. So I'm having them up in the air. We're working on getting their muscles activated. But we do also use a lot of different modalities. So whole body vibration is another tool in my toolbox that I will use. So we usually will start out with some whole body vibration, which is great for both kiddos that have low muscle tone as well as high muscle tone, just to kind of prep their muscles, get them activated, help to kind of loosen up some rigidity in the muscles before getting started with the harder exercises. So a lot of times we'll do some whole body vibration. We'll go into DMI based exercises. So depending on kind of what skills we're working on with the child, we'll do a DMI based exercise in which I'm having them learn how to activate muscles that they may have never used before, or maybe they're just not quite sure how to turn those specific muscles on. And then so after we go through and we try out the DMI exercise, we'll usually try out the same thing on the ground. So for example, if we're doing kind of an aerial based exercise where I'm having the kiddo up in the air, they're working on lifting their head up against gravity and working on activating their trunk muscles. Afterwards, what we'd do is we'd go and try just a regular sit on the ground and see if they can kind of transfer over what they learned from the DMI exercise of how to turn on the right muscles. And then you try the same exercise on the ground. And it's just really awesome to see just how quickly kiddos pick it up after trying the DMI exercise. And then going and trying themselves and kind of watching them piece together just the motor control aspect of what muscles to turn on. It's just such an amazing thing to see.
It really truly is. So who is the target market for DMI? Who would most benefit from this kind of therapy?
Yeah, so kiddos that have motor impairments or delays of any sort benefit from DMI. So the kiddos that we most see are kiddos that may have sustained a neurological injury at birth, kiddos that have rare genetic conditions, kiddos that have had maybe an acquired brain injury. We see lots of cerebral palsy, spina bifida, kiddos that had hydrocephalus at birth. So just kind of conditions that may impact their motor development, or kiddos that have kind of some sensory impairments, because DMI kind of works to piece together the sensory component, the motor component of learning. And every program is different, but different programs have weight limits in terms of kind of what the therapist can handle for your child's weight. So a lot of programs have a weight limit of somewhere between 30 to 50 pounds. So generally DMI is kind of targeted towards the, let's say 0 to probably up to 5 years old. Just differs across the programs. But that I always really like to emphasize that early period in which a child is learning new skills. So that 0 to about 3 years old, that's when you're going to see the most neuroplastic changes in the brain. So that is, if it's possible at all to get your child into DMI prior to 3 years old, that is when you're really going to be able to make the biggest differences in the brain.
Have you ever worked with children that are older with this, considering that it's such a new form of therapy? You know, do you think it would benefit older children?
I do, yes. And there are definitely programs out there that see older kids as well. The therapist may just kind of choose to do certain DMI exercises that are not so quite aerial based. So ones that the certain exercise kind of handles the child's weight. I think that is one of the biggest factors when it comes to deciding which DMI exercises to do. But there is definitely a benefit that older kids can get out of DMI, just because the model of therapy is so different, and it just really brings together kind of the sensory and motor components of how to learn a skill.
So I just wanted to say, you were talking about the weight in pounds. In kilograms, 30 pounds would be about 13 kilos. So we're saying 30 pounds to 50 pounds. So up until about 22 kilos in weight, it would be if you converted that. But I also wanted
Mhm.
to ask, we were saying that you had mentioned in that about neuroplasticity. So for those parents that don't know what neuroplasticity is, and again, it's another one of those topics that gets me really, really excited, because it's just so amazing to see how the human body works and especially how the brain can work. Would you just giving us a brief explanation on what neuroplasticity is and how that helps when incorporating this therapy?
Oh, yes, I would love to because I love to talk about neuroplasticity as well. I think it is just, it's so amazing. So, neuroplasticity, essentially, when you break it down, is the brain's ability to form new connections, new synapses in the brain, to help kind of overcome an area of the brain that may either be damaged, or maybe just isn't functioning the way that it should be. So essentially, what goes on in intensives, and especially with DMI, is we are provoking neuroplastic changes in the brain that help the child to then understand how to overcome some of those damaged areas of the brain to learn a skill that they may have previously had a hard time learning. So in an intensive, it's really awesome to see because when we first start the intensive, they're first starting to learn a skill. And then as the days progress, each day that they come in, you can see that the child has kind of picked up on how to do the skill from the previous day. And the next day they're coming and they're starting to kind of self initiate doing portions of that skill without being prompted. So then each day they're kind of building more and more and more connections in the brain to help them learn how to do it themselves.
So awesome. So tell me, in this 3 week intensive, is it you working on a specific goal? So I come in and I say I want my kids to be able to sit on their own, or is it trying to get them to catch up to where their counterparts would be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when a kiddo comes in for an intensive, what we do on the first day is I chat with the family and we talk through where the family feels like they would like to see the most improvement, or where, you know, they're feeling like they have certain goals for their kiddo. So whether that is, sometimes families will come in and say, we'd love for our kiddo to start sitting independently. Sometimes goals will be, we would love to see our child weight bear through their arms better, so that they can transition in and out of positions, they can work towards crawling. And for some families, the biggest and most important thing is head control. A lot of times is, if we don't have head control, then skills that come after that are really challenging. So a lot of times when they're coming in is, we just want to help our child gain some head control, so that from there, when they go back to their traditional therapy, they have a better foundation to then work on sitting and crawling, standing, and those more advanced skills.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. So you recently had a family come all the way from South Africa to do DMI with you. So we're going to hear a little bit about this family's experience with DMI, and then we'll jump back into our conversation with you, Dr. Sunny.
Okay, sure.
We are joined by fellow South African Preemie Mom, Anthea, to share her Preemie journey and how she ended up across the world to receive DMI therapy for her daughter with Dr. Sonakshi Narayan. Thank you so much for joining us, Anthea.
Thank you for having me.
So please tell us a little bit about your premature journey with your daughter.
Okay, well, after suffering 2 miscarriages, we were really excited to finally reaching the second trimester. I got to 28 weeks and my placenta ruptured, and as Murphy's Law would have it, we were out of town for the weekend. Rory was then born via emergency C-section and immediately put on CPAP and in the NICU. So you wake up, your child is not there, like totally different floor, and they give you 3 days, you leave the hospital, and you have to leave your baby in the hospital. We were 4 hours away from home. I had to travel to the hospital every day while still recovering from a C-section.
Sure. That is too terrible. Do they not have lodging facilities close to the hospital, or like around?
No, we actually, because she was in the hospital for 2 months, we had to rent an apartment, short-term lease, just for that stay. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Sure. That is so hectic. I don't know sure. Yeah, us preemie parents go through the most. I mean, my son ended up being born at a completely different hospital as well, because when my placenta abrupted, we weren't close to home either. So on the other side of town. So I can just imagine, I mean, I'm complaining about a car ride, 30 minutes or so, and you were 4 hours away from home. Sure, that is so hectic.
Yep.
What a roller coaster journey. So how did you end up hearing about this specific kind of therapy, DMI therapy, and why did you end up across the country seeking this therapy?
She had such a challenging start to life. What made things worse was the fact that she contracted bacterial meningitis at the age of 3 months, which set her back even more. She seemed to be making little to no progress with conventional therapy. And then someone sent me an Instagram link on DMI. We did some research, we sent out a few emails, and realistically, within reach, the only people that were able to get back to us were in the US. And then we started her journey to recovery.
Oh my goodness. So did you have to leave South Africa to go to the United States to do this therapy?
Yes, because there aren't any. Yeah, at the time, there were no certified DMI therapists.
Understand. So, DMI is a very intensive kind of therapy. What did you, as the parents, do to prepare for it mentally? And did you do anything for your daughter to prepare for it? Because it's quite intense physically for her as well.
Okay, well, we actually just had to be prepared financially. DMI doesn't come cheap. I also had to learn to drive in the US to take my child to therapy. Other than that, the transition is so smooth. Dr. Sunny eases the kids into the sessions and builds a rhythm with them. So it wasn't as hard when you begin. You know, the first day or two, they ease into it and there was just a proper flow.
I'm glad to hear that, because some of the videos that I've seen, like my mommy heart really could can't handle, you see the children, they're trying so hard, but also like in the beginning, they're awakening new muscles that they have never used before. So it seems quite intense. So I could just imagine like the first couple of days must be quite hectic for you emotionally. That's why, yeah, I was thinking maybe there's some game plan to prepare beforehand.
We went into it blindly, but she was very gentle, and we were very comfortable. Not there was at no point where I felt like, oh my gosh, this is too much. So it's
Oh,
okay.
wow, that's great. You did mention to me about red light therapy. For those that don't know what it is and why someone uses it, would you please explain it a bit more to us?
Okay, so we also ended up going to the Neuro Solutions Center in Austin, Texas. And Rory did a 2-week intensive program with them. They use lasers to help with like vagus nerve function, help with primitive reflex integration, ease pain, heal the brain. Basically speeds up neuroplasticity when you combine it with physical or occupational therapy. The laser treatment was just one more tool we added to Rory's therapy to give her a better quality of life.
Oh man, that there comes that neuroplasticity again. Dr. Sunny and I definitely got into that a bit. I love how the brain just works and that it can
Absolutely.
reroute and rewire and create new pathways. It's just so amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me, has the DMI therapy been worth it? Both the financial, the physical, the emotional, the traveling across the world. Was it worth it for you and your daughter? And where is she on her journey now?
Absolutely worth it. We learned so much. We gained a lot more. I'll tell you this, on day one, Dr. Sunny asked us, what is your goal? I told her, we just want her to sit. By the end of our 3-week intensive with Dr. Sunny, Rory was able to sit for about 30 seconds independently. She was never able to do that before.
Wow.
All the work we did in therapy for over a year back home, she had achieved within 3 weeks with DMI. It doesn't get better than that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what does the future look like for you guys?
Well, we are planning on going back to the US in March of next year to do another intensive with Dr. Sunny and then another intensive with the laser therapy. But since we came back, she has progressed a lot faster because of neuroplasticity. We're just building on where we left off.
That's amazing. So has she done any new things in the process?
Well, she is now using her arms to lift herself, so bearing weight on the arms. She wasn't able to do that, and she also has better neck control. So yeah, for us, it is we gained a lot, really, physically with her, mentally for all of us. We really gained a lot. It is absolutely worth it.
That is amazing. And just the last one, how old is Rory now?
Rory turned 2 in August. She
Ah,
turned 2, and for a 2-year-old not being able to sit, it's hard for any parent. But we are very optimistic that she will, in her own time, get to where she needs to be.
absolutely, and gain her independence. I definitely believe it, and I've seen how the DMI therapy has worked. So thank you so much for joining us today, Anthea, and for being so brave to share your story and for being so transparent about your journey with DMI therapy and with Rory. And we wish you guys all the best going forward. And maybe we'll do an update after you guys have done your next round of therapy.
Great. All right. Thank you.
So for parents who are not in the US, how does they gain access to DMI?
So, what I would recommend is, unfortunately, since DMI has just kind of come out in the last few years, you're going to have to find the closest DMI practitioner to you. So, what I'd recommend is going on the DMI therapy website. If you just Google DMI therapy, it'll probably be the first link that pops up. And then from there, you can search for a registered practitioner near you. I would recommend seeing if there's a facility near you that does intensive. Some therapists will travel to your home and can do DMI therapy at your home. I think it just kind of differs between each facility, each therapist, and what they're able to offer.
Okay, that's cool. Because I do know when this particular family that actually came all the way to see you came to you, it was because we at the time only had one DMI certified therapist in South Africa, but they were a lower level. So I'm taking that there are different levels to becoming a DMI therapist.
Yes. Yeah, and so DMI, they're opening up courses kind of all around the world, and they do new courses monthly. So I believe that they just opened another new course in South Africa, which is awesome. But yes, there are 6 levels of DMI. So the kind of first half are the introductory levels, A, B, and C. And then there's the more advanced, the intermediate levels. The last level would be kind of the master's or the teacher level. So different kind of therapists are still taking courses and are certified at a certain level. So, you can kind of search and see if you find a practitioner near you who is certified. Typically, therapists are kind of a level B or C or higher in order to be able to provide intensives. It just differs from where you're located.
Okay, thank you for that. So you keep referring to intensives. Do you want to explain that to us? Is there a difference between that, or was it something that's incorporated into the DMI?
So yes, intensives are so you're going to find programs that are all over the world for intensives, which is very different than the traditional therapy model. So the biggest difference is the frequency of services. So what we're used to, at least I can kind of speak to here in the US, is what we're used to is that families will be referred if their child is a little younger than 3 years old, to the early intervention program, generally, which is when a provider would come to your home and do physical therapy sessions with you in your home. And generally, what you're going to get is a few visits a month for early intervention. And then you also have outpatient physical therapy. So that's where you would take your child to the facility and you have the potential to get in for therapy a few times a week. Now, the biggest difference with an intensive is that for intensives, the therapist will be working with your child for a few hours every single day, Monday through Friday, across a few weeks of time. So different programs have kind of different options that they offer. For my practice, I offer anywhere between 1 week up to 3 weeks. So the kiddo would come in every single day, Monday through Friday. I would work with them for an hour and a half each day. And that just allows us to see much more rapid progress than what you would see in a more traditional therapy model, because they're having the opportunity to come in every day. They're building on what they learned from the previous day, in addition to the DMI exercises, which just naturally kind of bring on progress a lot more fast.
Thank you so much for that. So, how would someone like me, a parent that is taking their child to traditional therapy, how would I educate them about this DMI experience, so that more therapists are aware of it, and perhaps we'll be able to get more certified therapists doing this kind of work in our country and in other countries as well.
Yeah, I would say right now, I think the biggest and most effective tool right now for other therapists, families, parents to learn about it, I think right now is social media. I think it's the easiest way to kind of show what DMI looks like. You get to see what progress looks like, and videos that are shared across the world. And I think that that has had such a huge impact. Families getting to kind of understand a little bit more about what DMI looks like, and maybe talk to their providers and say, hey, have you heard of this? And then providers start to look into it more and more. And I think, the work that you're doing in just raising awareness about this is so important, because it's going to reach more and more families and just change more lives.
Oh, that is my hope for this. If I had known about something like this earlier on, I definitely would have gone for it. But I also think that we still fairly new in our diagnosis. So we got diagnosed later on. My kid is like 6 years old now, about to be 7. And so I know that, like, if I had known about this when he was 2 years old, when I started noticing that, hey, something's not okay here, I definitely would have ran looking for something like this. But then again, I think it also, the fact that the therapy is so new and that it's not really known in our country. When I first found out about it, when I did search, there was only one therapist, and I think she was at the introductory level. I think she's on the third one now at the moment, because I did go and look again the other day, and I see now we've got 2 more, and in different parts of the country, which is also very awesome, because I know in other parts of the country, like, just accessing normal therapy is a struggle. So now to have these types of qualified therapists in other parts, I think is going to be a game changer in the long run. So I'm hoping that, parents that come after me will have more access to such therapy.
Yes, absolutely. And I know that, recently, I think a lot more education and awareness has been out there. So lots more therapists are starting to learn about the amazing effects of DMI. And so they're starting to do a little bit more research themselves, get certified in practice. And it's so wonderful to see new DMI therapists popping all over the world, and just being able to bring this therapy to children near them. And that was a huge reason why I started my practice, is because I was hearing from families that I was working with that they were traveling 8 or more hours to go and access their nearest DMI therapist, or their nearest intensive. And so I was like, there's a lot of kiddos that would benefit from this type of therapy. And so that's kind of where my journey started, where I started to do some more research and just learn more about what DMI looks like, and just get to experience it for myself. And so now I kind of brought DMI to the Northern Virginia region where I am. And so it's awesome to see many more DMI therapists popping up. And I will say for families, I know that the financial aspect is a big part of being able to participate in intensive, as well as just the feasibility of finding your nearest intensive, and traveling, taking time off work. There's a huge commitment to it as well. And I will say that there are lots of new grants and programs popping up that are giving financial assistance to kiddos that are wanting to participate in an intensive. So for families that maybe it's a little difficult, and it might be a financial hardship just to take time off work, and the feasibility of it, I really recommend to families looking up and seeing if you can find a grant program, or any programs that are giving a little bit of allowance or stipend, so that your kiddo can participate in an intensive.
That's some great information. Thank you for sharing that aspect of it. I hope in our country we will get there, because I definitely know the therapists that we have are private. They're not available in the government sector as yet. I
Mm,
don't know if it ever will be, but
mhm.
definitely something worth sharing. I know that I recently did share it with my son's therapist, and I will continue to do that with any therapist that I come across, because you never know who might actually go and do the course or might benefit from it as well. So I thank you so much for sharing that. And I think the parents in the US, you guys should run and go and check and see if you do qualify for a grant for this, because it definitely will be life
Mhm.
changing for you. So how do people get in
Yes, I
contact
totally
with
agree.
you, Dr. Sunny? If they'd like to schedule
Yeah, so
appointments, or where they can follow your work on social media as well. Sorry.
yes, so I share a lot of my work and my progress on Instagram, TikTok, and then every now and then on Facebook as well. So the handle is just at Sunny Days PT for all of the platforms. You probably will run into, if you go to look up my social media, you're going to run into a lot more accounts that do DMI, so you'll get a much better idea of what it looks like. And so it's just really exciting to see, and I really encourage families to, if they have access to social media, to look up some videos and see what it looks like.
That is so awesome. I will definitely include your handles in the text part of the episode. But thank you so much for taking this time off to join us today. This has really been an eye opening chat. And I am so excited for the future of physical therapy for children with neurological impairment.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to just bring some awareness on DMI and intensives. I think because it's a newer therapy, and we're still kind of working on getting the word out to the families that really need to hear about it. I think you're just doing awesome work, and so I thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to our listeners for joining us on the Life, Love, Everything podcast with me, Tasmin Bota.